Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rudy Page, and this evening I'm really happy for us to have a dialogue with Mr. Ace Love. Ace, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Great to see you. Great to see you. And I know that you've been doing a lot of work in the community around well-being.
Yeah.
So we're always pleased to talk to the trusted messengers from our community who have a concern for the well-being of not just our community, but everybody in general. But you know that you do have that focus. So, Ace, tell us a bit about yourself and your family background.
I'm a British-born Jamaican. My parents are, first generation Windrush. I was born in northwest London, and yeah, I grew up in the inner cities of London.
Okay, excellent. So tell us about a bit about your work and your counselling work. How did you get into that work?
Yeah.
Why?
Just to explain that, I'm going to go back a bit. So, in a previous incarnation of myself, I was a personal trainer, and I had a very long and successful career as a personal trainer, which evolved from one-to-one clients to me owning my own personal training studio. I opened a boxing club, and I had a gym that we ran for 12 years. And that building served as a hub for the local community in northwest London. Literally thousands of men, women, and children at some point over that 12-year period passed through those facilities. And at that particular moment in my life, I used exercise as a focal point to improve people's health and well-being. And I did it unwittingly, didn't really understood how powerful what I was doing at the time was, but I was doing it for the sheer love and joy of exercise. I've always been quite athletic. I've always participated in various sports, and for that period of my life, it never felt like work. But just to expand a little bit, what I did within the community, within that sect, is we went on to then roll those same services across multiple schools in London. So we were commissioned to go into primary schools and secondary schools and deliver breakfast clubs all around health and fitness, PE style lessons during the day, and also after school workshops, as well as we partnered up with local academies. And then also we rolled the services out into pupil referral units. And at that particular time, the old crews, whereby at that particular time we was using skills like boxing to teach kids life skills and encourage them, because statistically, the statistics show that a child that boxes is less likely to pick up a knife. There were various knife campaigns at the time, the one drop campaign, etc., that was really encouraging our youth to stay away from using knives upon one each other. So that's just a little bit about the how I've been, what I've been doing in the community, but it's always been from an exercise perspective, but still using exercise as a tool, not only to encourage health and well-being, but also sometimes to, in more challenging situations, to steer our children in a better direction. Do you want to ask me anything, any questions before I link that to mental health?
No, that's fine. Keep going.
Okay, so in 2019, just before the pandemic, after having a very long, successful career in health and fitness, I decided that it was time for me to move on. I just felt there was another calling inside me, and I felt that I had done all I can do within health and fitness. I didn't mention I also retailed over 5,000 sports products online, and I also brought out my own brand of boxing gloves, hand wraps, and various other equipment. So I did quite a lot within health and fitness, and I just felt like I had exhausted.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. A bit of a Del Boy trotter,
So
but or I say Robin Hoods, you know. So
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Okay.
but in 2019,
Yeah.
I sold my gym literally just before the pandemic, and I didn't have any idea what I was going to do next, but I just knew I was going to do something because I can't sit still. So the pandemic came about, and I remember, so this time I sold my gym, and at that time I was still just trying to figure it out what I was going to do. But the pandemic came about, and I remember being in a Caribbean food restaurant the first week of lockdown when the government was encouraging people to stay at home, you know, and down tools. And I remember these two black women standing up having a conversation with each other about the length of time the possible lockdown could go on for and how that would affect them financially, having to keep a young family of children at home. Because you know what it's like when you're, I mean, we're in the summer holidays right now, you know, it's like when the kids are at home, you know, it costs you a fortune. So, and I sat there just over eavesdropping politely in their conversation, and I thought, I've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Because if these two women are having that conversation, there's probably a lot of women in their position that are thinking along the same lines. And I decided that I would start offering free food packages to the most vulnerable members of our community. And my two target markets were single women who are in lockdown with families with kids, and the elderly.
Mhm.
Now, even though this is food, this was the birth of the counselling services we now provide. But I'm just giving you the embryonic stages. So we was out during the lockdown, using the social media tools to get a bit of publicity for what we was doing, and the response from the community, as usual, was phenomenal. We had Caribbean food shops donating bags of rice. You had butchers donate food. You had restaurants. Everybody was just donating to the cause. And you had people volunteering their services and saying, "Hey, so I've got a car. I can do deliveries." You got people saying, "You know, we can pack bags." So we got a nice little operation going. And we started to go out and deliver food in the community. Ironically, 90% of the people that we was dropping food parcels to were elderly. And to my horror and my shock, because I'm actually on the ground seeing what's going on live on the ground, all of the elderly that we were dropping food to had no young grandkids or even kids to come and bridge that gap and pick up food for them and drop food and stuff like that. And
so they were in isolation then.
Absolute isolation. Absolute
living in isolation.
Absolute cut off from the world completely. And for a lot of them that had mobility issues, if you can remember at that time, the queues around supermarkets were ridiculous. They went round the block, and so they couldn't even stand for that length of time. Let alone, so it was a real challenging time for you know, the community and those that was on the ground trying to do their best to keep the engine running, so to speak. So we successfully got the food parcels going, and we started doing. We had a little like list and address of names and elderly people, and every week we started to give continual, you know, making sure we're replenishing goods, and they asked for specific things, you know, like diet sugar-free Lucozade. One elderly woman asked for a tin of ackee, you know, so we started to be a little bit more specific to some of the things they looked after. You know, most of them reminded me of my own grandparents. Everyone to me was grandma and auntie. So, but
you have to be commended for that.
Give thanks, my brother, and with great humility. We do this for the sheer love and joy of the reward that we get. This self-fulfilling reward. So I mean,
and we're back to that community well-being. So having got yourself involved in that aspect of community well-being, what made you then feel that you would move into the area of counselling? So again, what would, and the mental health of the community, what got you into that area specifically then?
Okay, so just doubling back and then coming straight back to this point, just to make it clear, as a personal trainer, just like hairdressers and often barbers, you end up finding yourself in a position of almost being your client's therapist anyway. You know, the barber shop, you know, is a great community hub where a lot of dialogue takes.
And that trust, and people are willing to share some of their, you know, very personal, but things that they really need to share.
So, as a personal trainer, I had a relationship with a lot of my clients where I was actually giving them counsel, and you know, especially if you're very good at understanding behavioral patterns. So someone would come to me and say, Ace, I'm overweight. And before I got put them on a treadmill and said, right, run, I would try to understand their eating habits from a psychological perspective. And then you realize that this person's actually comfort eating. And then you look at what is triggering the comfort eating. So you really undo things and get to the root cause. And that makes them lose weight a lot quicker than you just making them run for miles and miles and miles, because you're actually addressing the root as opposed to the symptom. So I was always fascinated with counselling because I became a counsellor more unofficially as a personal trainer. But when the pandemic happened and we was delivering food, and we started delivering food on a weekly basis, we started engaging in dialogue with these our elderly, and we realized that that was the only conversation they had. They actually look forward to not only just coming and dropping food, but seeing a face, a familiar face, a friendly face, and being able to just stop 5-10 minutes at the door and have a conversation. So the first service I launched was a befriending service for our elderly in the community. And I knew a lot of what I would call sisters or mothers in the community, figures that, you know, were volunteered to play that befriending role. So this is where Talk Support was born, and we started offering befriending services initially. As the pandemic lengthened, and unfortunately a lot of people lost loved ones, we felt the need to start offering bereavement services. At that time, we had 15 committed volunteers working for the organization, and we put them on a relevant training. So they had the certifications and the skill set to now facilitate not only befriending for those people that are in isolation, but bereavement coaching for those people that had suffered losses. And then from there, things just snowballed in terms of offerings. And now we're a fully registered mental health charity that offers counselling services, mentoring services, still offering bereavement services and befriending services.
Which is excellent. So what areas do you cover, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, once again, pandemic driven. Initially, when we launched, we had offices in Canary Wharf, and we were based in, say, East London. But because of the on-off pandemic situation, we actually went completely digital, and now all the services we offer are via telephone and also via Zoom and Teams meetings. What that means is it allows us to be able to proudly say that we're a national service, because anybody in the UK, whether you're in Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester, we've had clients as far as Wales, have picked up the phone, and if you call our national helpline, 0203 6677 888, we will facilitate.
Could you just say that number again? A bit.
0203 6677 888. It's a national helpline, and anybody can call it and get support. And we pride ourselves on the turnaround time as well. One of the things that makes us, I think, unique is that if you call us today, for example, your call will be triaged, and you probably start your sessions next week, week after next later. So very quick turnaround. We don't have you on long waiting lists.
Excellent. So you've got an event coming up next week. Can you give us some more details about that?
Yep. So outside of the one-to-one services that we offer, we've been heavily involved. Even I know we talk about being a national company, but we are London-based. Just to make that clear. So even though anybody can pick us up, call us nationwide, we are a London-based company or charity, and in London we focus on all the boroughs, but the most heavily deprived, so boroughs like Haringey. We do a lot of work in that borough around supporting mental health. So the event that we have got on the 4th of September, it's an online event, and it runs every fortnight, and it's what we call we've coined the term mind therapy, and we host a space, we facilitate a space where members of the public can chime in and express any concerns that they have, and confidentiality. Confidentially, and we then look to unpack and find solution-focused answers for those individuals. I've been facilitating these sessions for the last 5 weeks now, fortnightly, in conjunction with the Garvey village, and even myself has been overwhelmed at how valuable though these sessions have been in terms of the stuff that has been brought up in confidence and the support we've been able to give members of the community. So yeah,
right. So you're able then to give one-to-one support. So if somebody comes on and says, you know, they have an issue that they would like to be addressed in the group, so to speak, then they can then go offline.
Yeah.
Have a personal. How does that process work? How do you just take us through that?
Well, you've got two things in tandem at play, which just gives two bites of the cherry. The peer support groups in itself is a space where, depending on the nature of what it is you want to share and how comfortable you feel sharing, it's a space where people do come with quite sensitive issues. And I get those issues unpacked in a way that protects them and also is of use to them. But if there are things that have even provoked you during one of these sessions and you want to speak to somebody offline, because the synergy between the Garvey and Village is one that, as such, that they're working very closely with Talk Support as a charity, through the referral system of the charity, you can get support. You know, likewise, just anyone can pick up their phone, as I've said, National Helpline. And by the way, it's a self-referring charity, because people often ask, how do I refer somebody to your charity? Self-referrals, either via the telephone or via the email address. Can I just repeat it now?
Yeah, absolutely.
info@talksupport.uk. The website is www.talksupport.uk. But if you can self-refer by your email, info@talksupport.uk, or by the telephone number 0203 66 77
Okay. So in terms of the event, is there any more sort of details that you think it would be good for the public to know, the community to understand?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that Talk Support and the event in general is designed to assist in relieving and rehabilitating persons suffering from mental disorders or conditions of emotional and mental distress. Excuse me. What I think is important to know is that we provide a culturally competent space for people to unpack issues that are quite sensitive.
It's safe, and it's safe as well.
Yes. And one of the things that the continued feedback that we've had week on week is that we need more spaces like this, because I find that, without getting into too much semantics of the ins and outs of why, in our culture we have almost like a tendency for silence. You know, a lot of us have been raised in environments where you don't talk your business outside the house.
Yeah.
And even as men, you know, this portrayal of masculinity, which is about a man should never show emotions, you know, should never be weak, it's weak to cry. It builds up a lot on inside people that they feel there's nowhere they can release that. And that causes, as we know, men to have high rates of suicide, as well as other conditions,
Stress levels, absolutely.
anxiety, depression. So having spaces where our community, both men and women, can come and unpack whatever they're going through without judgment in an environment that is safe, I feel is of so much benefit to our community and is needed.
It is. And also with what you're explaining, I mean, we look at it in terms of safe and familiar settings.
Yeah.
And also that contributes to the early intervention.
Yeah.
There are times in our community that we have people who, if there was earlier intervention and referral, then down the line, the outcomes would be better for them and the community.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the reality is that we want to keep more people out of the system that we can. And that focus around community responsibility and support that you've set out is really important. So Ace, before we go, can you just tell us once again, how can people get hold of you?
Yeah.
And if people want to volunteer for any of the points that you've made, how they can get involved, I think that's really important. So how can people get hold of you, and people want to volunteer, how can they get involved?
Yeah. Just before I answer that, I'm just going to be cheeky and just quickly touch on community responsibility, just because that was one of the last things. Do you mind? Can I just touch on that?
Community responsibility is really important. So go ahead.
So the reason why, if anyone's wondering, well, why did you get into mental health, and why have you decided to set up a charity that offers services to the most vulnerable members of the community, or people with low incomes that can't access those services? And it's for those two words that you just said, their community responsibility. We have often been failed in this country by many institutions, unfortunately. And the mental health institution is just one of many, which I won't name at this particular point in time. And when it comes to mental health, a lot of the time we are misdiagnosed and over-medicated. So you talked about early intervention and being the impact that early intervention can have. So that is my why for why I do what I do so passionately with the charity, is because I feel that it's our responsibility to make sure that we can facilitate the services that we need in our community, because we know what we need better than anybody else.
Absolutely. And some of that, again, around our community responsibility, that collective action is the reduction of stigma ourselves within our community. And that's why we want more people that, the term that we talk about, willing to be kind, compassionate, and treat people with humanity, because that's the best way to improve the outcomes when people are suffering from, mental anguish. So the point that you make about why is really important. And that, for us, the focus on our responsibility as a community to take care of ourselves is really an important one. So we get the message why you're involved.
Respect. So you said tell everyone where they can get in touch, and mention volunteers. So I'll do it in the reverse. I'll do the volunteers and I'll leave my deals last, and I'll full stop. So in relation to volunteers, I hate to use the word free, because when you say the word free, automatically people don't value whatever it is. It's free, can't be good. we pride ourselves on the fact that we don't charge anybody for the services we provide. The reason being is because low-income families are usually sometimes the ones that have the most, mental health issues, stress, anxiety, depression, cost of living crisis. All these things add to the person's mental health and state of well-being. And if they can't financially access those services that can put them in a better space, once again, early intervention, where do they go? So we pride ourselves on being able to provide those services at no cost to the most vulnerable members of the community. And the way we do that is through our volunteers. Our volunteers are professionals. Most of them work in this field in one capacity or another, and they give just the maximum. We never ask for more than 3 hours a week, but some people, even if it's just 1 or 2 hours a week, they give back to the community. And that model allows, as they would say in Jamaica, one hand to wash the other, so to speak. So if anybody's listening and wants to just give back to the community in terms of a few hours a week, we will be more than welcome. We're welcome to,
And you do the training and safeguarding and everything.
Yeah. We have a conversation. We see whatever certifications they've got, and then you go through the normal, channels that you would any joining, getting employed by any organization. But if anyone's interested at volunteering for a position within the organization, do give us a call. For those that haven't got qualifications, we do as an organization continuously run workshops to skill up our volunteers that haven't got. So recently, for example, we've done a mentoring workshop, and we had, I think it was 12 volunteers now become mentors. And then we done another one recently on peer support group training. So we've trained volunteers to facilitate the type of sessions I do every fortnight, which you mentioned. The next one's on the 4th of September. So yeah, anyone who's got a good heart in the right place that wants to give back to the community, get in touch with us. And on that note, I'll give you the details one more time. It's Talk Counselling, working name Talk Support. The website is www.talksupport.uk. Email, if anyone wants to get in touch with myself, it's info@talksupport.uk. And finally, the national helpline, 24 hours self-referring helpline. You can also call on 0203 66 77 888.
Thank you very much, Ace. Great work. Keep going.
Thank you.
And very well done.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you for having me this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Goodbye.